welcome, as we are talking, to put some notes or questions in the chat box. I would really like to hear from you if you are unclear about what it is. EQ is a tricky thing, and that is why I'm reiterating a few things, because we really need to understand what it is, and we sometimes still are not sure exactly what it is. There's a lot of misconceptions. Even for myself, I had to clarify quite a few things in order for me to know what it means. All right, so this is Emotional Intelligence Part 3. Okay, so my name is Celia Denton. I'm an industrial psychologist and owner of PTES Consulting. So we do psychometric assessments, and included in our presentation today is emotional intelligence, but the third part already. And excuse me, I'm going to have my Nespresso because this is my only small little treat in the morning. So I hope you're having a coffee with me. Okay, so thank you also to the HR Touch, the HR Talk, that always arranges these webinars for us and send out the invitations to everyone. And it's fantastic to see all of you again. Okay, so let's start with why are we talking about EQ? So you've seen that I've repeated this quite a bit. And when we do psychometric assessment, what we need to look at is obviously the ability, the IQ, but what is also very important is the EQ. So you do want to have a balance, but we do need to understand what it is. There's really a lot of misconceptions about it. I just want to, for the guys that participated in the part 1, you will remember our discussion about Lisa Nowak, the astronaut that sort of lost her marbles because her boyfriend, even though she was married with children, had an affair with another girl. So he sort of dumped her and had an affair with another girl, and she just lost it. She actually got into incredible legal trouble for it, because there was a sort of a plan to kidnap, abduct, possibly kill, I don't know, the new girlfriend. So that was a very interesting story. We will probably repeat the whole program next year again. So always keep an eye out for these invitations. But that story is a very good example of someone that's very intelligent, but the EQ is a little bit lower. So let's see what it means. So noticing and understanding emotions in oneself is considered one of the 4 key ingredients to emotional intelligence. So remember, noticing and understanding. We're not condoning, we're not judging, just noticing and understanding. So what I notice, it's a very simple word. That's all that it is, noticing. Since the practice of mindfulness, so lately people are talking about mindfulness instead of emotional intelligence, because mindfulness means that I'm thinking about it, I'm aware. So it involves noticing one's current thoughts and feelings without judgment or interference. One learns to observe different emotional states. So in line with this notion, Fieldman, Hayes, found that mindfulness is positively correlated with increased clarity of feelings, attention to feelings, lower distraction. So clarity of feelings, attention to feelings, and lower distraction. Just as intellectual intelligence is manifested through reading and learning, emotional intelligence can be fostered through mindfully attending to the current emotional states. So can you see again, I want to refresh your memory. We were not judging or condoning anything that Lisa Nowak did. What we are trying to do is to understand what she was thinking or feeling. So the clarity of feeling, attention to feeling, and lower distraction. Okay, so emotions and emotional intelligence. So you will see that emotional intelligence consists of quite a few things. It's self-awareness, self-regulation, social skills, and empathy. The self-regulation is actually something that I want to emphasize, because self-regulation, you can be aware of your emotions, but then regulating it. Your social skills, understanding other people, and empathy. So we are emotional creatures. This is a good thing until our emotions get out of balance and lead us to say or do something that we will later regret. So emotional intelligence helps you make emotions work for you instead of against you. So what is emotional intelligence? So emotional intelligence is the ability to identify, understand, and manage emotions. So that management part is an important part. So you identify it, you understand it, and we manage it. So it's like a superpower because it can make you better at everything that you do. But like any ability, it needs to be trained and sharpened. So firstly, you want to identify it, understand it, but very importantly, manage it. So if you can understand what you are going through, you can actually manage it. So IQ or EQ. So what is EQ? So EQ is shorthand for emotional intelligence. So we think of it like IQ, but for emotions. So when you hear that someone has a high EQ, it actually means that they're skilled at leading a team, collaborating with others, managing difficult situations, or all of the above. So how do you know if you are emotionally intelligent? So emotional intelligence is a spectrum. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. So the key is to learn how to leverage your strengths and mitigate your weaknesses. So when you're emotionally intelligent, you understand yourself at a deeper level. That means that recognizing both your strengths and your weaknesses, you're confident about what you contribute and where you need help from others. You're also in tune with your emotions. So you're in tune with your emotions. So later on, there is a part where we're going to go through like a misperception about EQ. So emotional EQ doesn't mean that you are an emotional person and that you are just in touch with your emotions. It's not what it means. We think that someone that's more emotional is more emotionally intelligent. It's not. It is understanding what what you are going through and those of others. So on the right-hand side, you will see here, this is actually based on an assessment that is available in South Africa. So it adds a few things. So it looks at self-perception, it looks at self-expression, interpersonal skills, decision-making, and stress management. All right, so want to build your emotional intelligence. So answer this simple question. So when and how do my emotions work against me? So for example, did your temper cause you to say something that, did your temper cause you to say or do something that you regret? So maybe you were in an extremely joyful mood and you agreed to do much work. So can you see that we think it's only the one part, but it could even be that that you promise too much, that you are in a good mood and you let things slide. So it's even the opposite of thinking maybe getting too angry at someone and speaking too quickly. It can also be the opposite, where you are joyful and you promise too much. So also think about how you're affected by unpleasant emotions like fear or anxiety. These emotions aren't all negative. They help us keep danger or keep you out of danger. So however, they can also prevent you from making a decision, taking action, or trying out new experiences. So that's what I like. Even when we do this stress management course, we also tell people not all stress is bad. You don't have to be flatlined. You don't have to be, there could be a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of fear, a little bit, that's normal because it keeps you on your toes. Just don't let it go into overdrive. So your emotions can also work against you when it comes to your relationships with others. So for example, maybe you lack empathy. Don't take that the wrong way. Most of us lack empathy at times. And the empathy muscle is the one that works hard. That is the one that takes hard work to strengthen. But for now, it is important to know that an inability to understand the feelings and emotions of others can cause you to become callous to their problems. So yeah, that's a very important point. So it's important to know that an inability to understand the feelings and emotions of others can cause you to become callous to their problems. So this can be extremely damaging to your relationships and at work. So on the other hand, you may be suffering because you show too much empathy. So in other words, you relate too closely to your feelings, to the feelings of others, leaving you emotionally exhausted. This is also a very important point. So remember, you're on a spectrum and you want to get a balance. Don't think that the only thing you need to develop is your lack of EQ, your lack of empathy. I've seen a lot of people where they are on the other side, and they may be very helpful, very empathic, just for someone to sit on the other side to take advantage of it. So please be very mindful. You need to have a nice balance there. Let me just check. There is a question. So do you have testing questionnaires that scientifically determine to what level you are balanced in terms of your various categories of EQ? Yes, we do. So there is a very good an assessment in South Africa. It's actually based on this circle here. It's called the EQI. It is a coaching type of report. So it is something that will help you to understand which of the clusters you are good at and not so good at, and just to make you aware of it. So it does exist. Okay, so when and how do my emotions work as to be continued? So if you struggle to answer the question, when and how do my emotions work against me, try to ask for help. So find someone you trust, who knows you well, and ask them to share instances where they've seen your emotions get the best of you. So be open to that feedback. One of the things that will show you that you're not very emotionally intelligent is when you don't want to get feedback. You don't want to be criticized. You don't want to hear it. Listen, none of us really like it, but at some stage you have to decide, am I mature enough? Can I take it? Can I hear it? So that would be a very good starting point for you. The best way to learn is to get feedback. I think someone said last week's session, they had an example of someone who was told that they frequently interrupt others when they were speaking, and the person didn't know that they were doing it. They felt bad when they got the feedback, but they worked on it. That's already maturity right there. That's already looking at your EQ right there. So even if it was hard for that woman, I think it was a lady that it happened with, it was hard for her, but she took it and she worked on it. That's brilliant. So when, okay, let's see, brace yourself though. You may be surprised with the answer you'll get. Maybe you think you are worse than you really are. So maybe you're not that bad. So, but don't worry, remember that emotional intelligence is a spectrum, meaning that like everyone, you have emotional strengths and weaknesses. So learning to ask yourself and others this key question puts you on a path to developing self-awareness, which is the first step in building emotional intelligence. Right, it's the self-awareness. That's the first step to building emotional intelligence. So, and the fact that you're reading or listening to this right now is a sign that you're already ahead of people. So it means that you're already interested. That's why you're here. You want to hear a little bit more. That's you're learning already. Okay. Then research shows that, and this is an important part that I actually put in here with a purpose. So research shows that nurses who work with terminally ill patients run a higher risk of developing compassion fatigue. So a condition of physical and emotional depletion associated with caring for parents in a significant emotional pain and physical distress. It's easy for caregivers like these to focus on the needs for their patients at the expense of their own, putting them on a path to burnout. So technology has also created problem for empathic persons. So, okay, so not only are we talking about the nurse in a caring type of environment, remember it can be any type of caring position, doesn't have to particularly be a nurse. It can be anything related to that, because we do get emotion jobs. There's the thing that we call emotion jobs. The other thing is technology. So for example, one series of studies revealed that people were experiencing high levels of stress due to their use of social media. So what is the problem? As they become aware of friends' various struggles, like the loss of a loved one or stay in the hospital, their own levels of stress increases. So the problem was that social media allowed these persons to learn about those stressful events more quickly and in close succession to each other. So these things are very important. So while the little sips of information through social media may not seem like much, but they add up to a big gulp. So awareness of undesirable events in others' lives generates a cost in terms of increasing psychological stress, and with it, higher risk for the physical and psychological problems that accompany the stress. So it's the same as what we say when we do the stress management profile. We also say, don't watch the news so often, because what happens with the news, whether the news on TV, social media, whatever, you get bombarded with the same message repeatedly, multiple times a day. You know it already. So I think we've all learned a lot during COVID. I think a lot of you probably started switching the TV off when you know it was like watching, like almost like a game show with the numbers increasing like that, like live. the numbers were increasing, the deaths are increasing, the infections were increasing. It was like literally like a game show. So I remember at one point I actually switched the TV off because it was the same message that you're getting repeatedly. And look where we are today. It's blown over. It's gone again. So be mindful of what you listen to, what you are exposed to, what you hear and what you see. Your awareness of it is the first step. So what to do? At work, if your job involves being around others much of the day, you may quickly find yourself emotionally exhausted. And it may be normal. Maybe you have to be around a lot of people. You don't have to change your job. But to combat this, schedule buffer time between meetings and others. So take shorter, more frequent breaks that allows you to recharge your emotional batteries. And this doesn't have to just mean for taking short little breaks between being exposed to people. It can be just work as well. It can be anything. So just shorter, frequent breaks. Even with studying, when students study, it has been proven the more breaks there are, the better they are. So there's been scientific studies around it. That's actually where the tea break, I think it's a thing that developed in China or something like that. I'm not sure. But the tea break, the lunch break and the tea break again actually had a purpose. It came from there where they actually realized. I have to do more research on that because I can't remember the story, but I remember that the tea break, the lunch break, and the tea break actually had a purpose. So at home, learn to set boundaries and communicate those boundaries. If you're feeling reaching your limit, let your spouse or family members know that you need time to yourself. Tell them that you're looking forward to spending time together, but that mentally and emotionally, you're in a much better place after time alone. So, really keep an eye on when you can start feeling a little bit more tired. Keep an eye on it and then communicate it. So at play, recreation should be a way to refresh and recover. But if you're not careful, it could end up doing the opposite. So if you find yourself especially exhausted after spending some time with others, consider changing things up. If a certain friend is draining your energy, it doesn't mean that you completely have to avoid them. You may simply need longer breaks from them. So, but also keep an eye on what time in your life is it. You may be working and studying part-time. So normal things have got a more draining effect on you. You may have someone that's sick at home or something. So it's the situation changed a little bit. So don't think it's always normal, but be aware of what has changed and what now you have to adjust to make it a little bit easier for you. So work to understand your emotional needs and take action to support those needs. So if you do, your empathy will be working for you instead of against you. So also have empathy for yourself. Okay, so this is a story, an example that I want to talk to you about. We're going to talk about the Alsatian, the accountant, and the parent. Okay, so you're going to ask me, that sounds bizarre. So what are we going to talk about? So I'm just going to give you an example of things that you can start becoming aware of. So you may think that this is a silly example, but this is how subtle it is. Okay. So the Alsatian. This is a story that was told by someone else. So if I refer to me or I, it's not me. It was the person who was telling this. So when I was quite small, my mother let me play out in the street when I was at home. So we didn't have cars in those days. So we actually lived on a small hill of some 50 houses, and I enjoyed walking right to the top and then sailing down on my scooter. So the trouble was, in the house at the top of the road, there lived an Alsatian dog. Occasionally, it got out and prowled the street. I was terrified of it. Unfortunately, at the bottom of the road, there also lived an Alsatian. So it too occasionally got out, and I didn't like that one either. So one day, I was playing with my brothers. The dog at the top of the road was out, which I discovered only when I got close to the house. So to my acute alarm, it ran towards me. And in my terror, I raced down the hill, no doubt, screaming, the dog in hot pursuit. I actually remember doing this myself when I was in school. Anyway, my mother came out of the house 3/4 of the way down the hill, wondering what the fuss was about. She says, "It's only a puppy." I expect it was trying to play with you. So an insight into canine psychology that I felt was not particularly helpful at that time. So from that emotionally charged experience, I developed an emotionally charged memory. So no doubt, unintentionally exaggerating the size of the dog, the loudness, its barking, and so on. So from that time, quite a phobia of, and from that time came quite a phobia of all dogs, but especially Alsatians. So then can you see the scenario? We're not doing anything about it. We're not pampering the person and saying, oh, shame, you know, you feel you're scared of dogs or whatever. All that we're doing is we are recognizing and acknowledging that the person may have a little bit of a higher fear of a dog, particularly Alsatian, because of what happened here. And also remember, you can get over it. I remember now, I was joking now when I said, I remember something like this happened to me when I was younger. A dog actually chased me as well. And I was for a long time scared of that particular dog, but I grew out of it. As time, because a lot of years passed and it did change. But it is obvious that if something dramatic happens, especially if you're small, it will have a memory. So this example is really just to say where things comes from. Where does it come from? If we think back of Lisa Nowak, what do we think could have happened to her in her life to make her feel that absolutely lost and furious and rejected and abandoned when her scenario played out? Once again, we're not condoning, we're not feeling sorry, we're just trying to understand what has happened there. So that's all we're doing. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So the accountant and the ledger. So please, I would like to know your thoughts on these examples, because you will see it's very subtle examples. It's almost difficult to sort of get what it is that I'm portraying through this, but it's very subtle incidents. Okay, so this is once again not told by me. It's a story that was told by someone else. So I am a business consultant and met with an accountant. So the conversation turned to the concept of giver's gain. So the idea that if you help others, they will be highly predisposed to help you in return. So no, not out of a sense of obligation, though there will be there will be some of that, but rather because by offering and delivering help first, you show that you are an inherently decent person and others like to work with such people. So at which point the accountant pulled open one of his desk drawers and retrieved an A4 ledger, which he opened. He showed me the two facing pages on which he recorded the value of the work that he has received from others and the value of work he gave to others. So his intention was to ensure that he did not pass to others work of a higher value than he received. So do you understand what I'm saying here? Because sometimes when we do business, I also engage with people. I'm always thinking, I see it as a networking opportunity. They can see I'm pulling them in, you know, it's like a mutual relationship. But what this guy is doing, he's holding a record. I gave this to you. Am I going to get something back? Is it an eye for an eye? Is it you know what I mean? Let me just quickly see if there's a question. So when you know you react in a certain way, you are aware, but you battle to change it from time to time. So what do? You know what triggers you. You realize you are overreacting to the scenario. You try and breathe through it and take a step back, but you still react. Perhaps not in a traditional angry way, but still a reaction. Is high EQ not ever reacting? It is. So what you are doing, EQ means you just acknowledging how you're feeling at that time. Remember, you cannot control that emotion that comes up. You acknowledge and accept the emotion, but what you can do is that's where the regulation comes out. So if you acknowledge it, you step back, you breathe, and then you think about what your reaction going to be. But don't try and control your emotion that pops up or the scenario that triggers it. What you want to do is acknowledge the emotion, and then think of what it is that you're going to do. You're going to step back, breathe, and then you're going to first think, because you will be better if you react within 1 minute versus reacting only within 15 minutes. There will definitely be a difference. You maybe still be angry, But even if that means you need to give it a longer time, but don't try and discard the emotions or get rid of the scenarios, or don't try and do that. It's futile because you cannot do that at all. So emotional intelligence means these things are happening to me. I'm acknowledging it, and then I get my little way of coping with it. And that could be stepping back, breathing, thinking. But never try to, don't ever think that you cannot have the emotion, because if I have the emotion, it means I'm not intelligent, I'm stupid in that area and I'm screwed. No, you're not. It is acknowledging it, I'm seeing it, acknowledging how much on that spectrum I'm reacting, thinking of the best way how to react. But first, it's just stepping back and calming down, and then I'm taking it from there. Okay, but let me know if that answered your question. That is a very, very good example. So to come back to the accountant and the ledger. So what's happened here, this guy is he's literally keeping note of which work is given to whom, and he's afraid that he's not getting the same back. So however, this wonderful true story demonstrates the application of the scarcity model big time. So a belief that there is not enough to go around, not enough work, not enough money, ultimately not enough love, and I'll be damned if I don't get my fair share. So in thinking he would be out of pocket by passing work of a greater value than he received, he completely failed to recognize the substantial amount of work he would likely have got from people who saw someone in a more giving nature. Can you see how this person looked at it? He's looking like, what can I get? What can I get? What can I get? So probably a very intelligent person, but very narrow-minded and not relaxed in thinking, listen, I need to give people work. Even if I give a lot of work to this person, they never give me something back. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you need to get abused or used by people, but to keep tab. Can you see keeping tab? It is exhausting. It is exhausting to keep tab. Okay, there's another comment here that I quickly want to look at. So trauma in the past can most definitely drive everlasting fear. My mom never got over the fear of her fear of water based on a very traumatic experience as a young girl. While she handled the actual emotional impacts of the event, her fear of the water remains till this day. She's 71. It could absolutely, it depends on the traumatic event. So what we're looking at here is small little events, once again on a spectrum, and it can go up to a very great extent. So also keep that in mind. When you regulate yourself, also try to put into perspective what has just happened to you as well. So when we're talking about business scenarios that's happening on a daily basis, that on a scale from, say, let's say, scale from 1 to 10, that's not being very bad, 1 is not so bad. So that it may vary. It can go shoot up a little bit, and it may go down a little bit. So expect it. It's not going to always be calm. So expect it there. Something like almost drowning may be really high on that spectrum. So also have an understanding for yourself that it's normal if you are traumatized. It is normal if you still suffer from certain things. EQ just means you are aware of it and that you are saying to yourself that that is also okay. So see it in that perspective. There's no black and white. Can you see that this guy is trying to do it black and white? It doesn't exist. Let's look at the parent and the child. So here is a real example of how a parent understanding about thinking, feeling, knowing and sensing made a real difference to an unhappy child's life. So this is for maybe an example for the parents that's here. So one of my clients reported difficulty being a parent to his middle child. The child was clearly unhappy. The father was unhappy because he did not know what to do differently to make this child happy. So a forlorn hope anyway, since we cannot make anybody be anything. So he was fine with the other 2 children, but as a caring parent, recognized that his middle child felt excluded. So after talking for 20 minutes about how he and the other children communicated, the child realized that he and the 2 of his children were all thinkers. Sorry, the client, not the child. The client realized that him and the 2 other children they were thinkers, all highly rational, and they naturally communicated and played together spontaneously and with ease. So, but the middle child was a feeler. and was crying out to be accepted as such. And so the feeling child, if we look at the MBTI or some of the personality assessments, there's also misconceptions when we talk about a thinker and a feeler. So we think the feeler cries all the time. They just experience things differently from this one, or they act to it differently. But the pain in both is the same. They experience pain the same, but they may need to be addressed in a different way. So a lot of communication in words is in words. So a lot of communication is in words. So that was addressed. So now how you are feeling is not a feeling question, it's a thinking question. So it's designed to elicit data, information, such as much as the question, will that box go through that door is. So, but once asked, the father could develop conversations. We talked about both the child's feelings and his. So what do you feel like doing tomorrow? He might ask. So that is the way that he changed the sentence. So, and there are tactile kinesthetic ways of communicating too, and the father made sure that he used those far more than he did with the other children. So almost immediately that he started to make real effort to relate to the child, the way the child needed him to related, their relationship was transformed. So you can just be more open to these things. If you can see that when you communicate with people, the response are different from what you are used to, try and see how they differ. Like, what do they respond to differently? Like, what is the, like, for example, I know that some children don't respond well when you shout and scream at them. Some children don't respond well when you hit them. I know we don't hit anymore and whatever, but I have seen with people have said to me that, you know, if I hit this child, you know, like a boxlaw, that it has an positive effect on this one, but not on that one. But please don't take my words for this. I don't have children, so I don't know what works for children. I'm not an expert. I've just heard people say that talking to this one, or you know, that they react differently. So you can try and figure out how you can deal with it differently. So what someone says here, I love that this dad made the effort to firstly understand the issue, but also to actively act on the advice that he's received from you. So so that is important. If you can understand, or if you can try and clarify what it is that the person needs, but you need to maybe get help with that in order to see how the child is different, or how a person is different from other people. Okay, let's do an exercise. I want to see if we've got time, and we do have time. So we're going to do a quick exercise, and then we're going to talk about the misconceptions about emotional intelligence. Okay, so I want you to totally relax. I'm going to walk you through this exercise. You may need to exercise this exercise or practice this exercise a few more times than here with me. You may have to do it a few times. Maybe even let someone read it to you while you're doing it, or whatever. But practice it a few times so that you can start getting used to it. This is what people always say to me. They say, I can't meditate because I can't sit still. You need to practice things. You need to give it a chance. If you go run around the block just now and you haven't run in 20 years since high school, you're going to suffer. So you can't just stop because you're suffering or because you're getting tired. You need to keep at it. But be patient with yourself. Maybe first walk and run a little. So if you say meditate or do a relaxation technique, practice it. You're not just going to go into relaxation because you closed your eyes. It doesn't work like that. Everything else is instant. You drink a cup of coffee, get an instant boost, whatever. We are used to everything going quickly. If you want to relax, you need to give it a chance. So I think if people tell me that meditation doesn't work for them, it's purely because they're not doing it right, and because they haven't practiced it. Practice, practice, practice. Okay, so let's do this exercise. So firstly, relax there where you are sitting. This may take 10 minutes or so. So I want you to close your eyes. So find a comfortable seated position. So even if you're sitting on a chair, it doesn't matter. I want you to relax your shoulders. So either sitting on a cushion on the floor or in a chair, but allow your spine to be straight and long, because that's where the energy runs up and down there. Whether you now believe in those things or not, doesn't matter. Just try and open up your lungs, relax. Let your shoulders drop. This is one of the things that you'll probably will be one of your things that you can do every single day is test your shoulders. You'll see how many times you're sitting like this. Test your shoulders. And then when you see they tense, drop them. 5 minutes later, see if they like that, drop them. So do that throughout the day and you'll become aware of what your body is feeling. You'll be surprised. It's tense quite a lot. So gently close your eyes. So there where you are sitting right now, I want you to close your eyes, or you can just gaze down in front of you. You don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to, but closing your eyes is just shutting down any type of input that you're getting. That's why when you meditate, you close your eyes. You want to stop the input, the stimulation. All right, so then as you're sitting there, notice where your body is making contact. Your feet is touching the floor. Perhaps your back is on the ground. Your sitting bones are on a chair. So feel as you're sitting on that chair or on the ground, feel how you're sitting on the chair. Feel that how you are touching the chair and your feet is touching the ground. So then notice your breath. So for the next 5 minutes or so, the next a few breaths or so, follow each inhale and exhale. So feeling or imagining the breath flowing in and out of the body. So remember, when we got into this world, you took the first breath in. When we leave this world, you're going to have one single breath out. So the breath is very, very important. The breath works every single second of every single day since the first time you took your first breath. So the breath is very, very special. It's your whole existence. So there where you're sitting, notice your breath. Feel how you inhaling and exhaling. It may be quite fast, depending on how much coffee you had this morning. It may be nice and slow. Doesn't matter. Just be aware of how it's going in and out. Just become aware of that. Feeling how your breath is going in and out. So now shift your awareness from your breath to your body and begin to scan through your body slowly from head to toe. So as you're going in and out, so remember a breath that goes in and out. It's almost like a wave in the ocean that crashes onto the beach. It goes in and it goes out. Goes in and it goes out. So become aware of your whole entire body. So scan through your body. So as you go in and out, scan through your body up and down. So then try and observe any feelings or emotions that are present. So how are you feeling at this moment? Are you a little bit anxious? Are you relaxed? Are you energetic? You want to get going? Are you reacting on some things that's already happened this morning? So just become aware of your breath in and out and scanning your body from top to bottom, like up and down, up to the top of your head, go straight through your body to your toes. So as you are doing this, so you might detect numerous feelings or emotions throughout the body. So for this purpose, for this exercise, choose one feeling or emotion to focus on. So I'm going to let you do this exercise. It's going to feel weird, but just go with it. Just enjoy it. Just play. So you're sitting there, you're feeling calm. You may have other emotions that you are feeling. So take that emotion. So notice where in your body this emotion is located. So if you're feeling calm, whether you're feeling anxious, whether you've got a sore muscle in your back, it doesn't matter. Anything that you are feeling, try and locate where in the body that feeling is. So is it in your head? Is it in your heart area? Is it in your lungs? Where do you feel that emotion is? So now I want you to try and visualize how big or small is that emotion? Is it like average? Is it okay? You're feeling okay, calm? You're feeling maybe heightened anxiety, or remember, your anxiety can also be from too much coffee because you've stimulated the central nervous system. So always be very careful with too much coffee. So if you feel a little bit rattled or excited, it could be some of the coffee. It could also be what's holding in for this day, what you have to go through for today. So try to estimate how big or small is that feeling that you're feeling. All right. And then if you look at that feeling, whether it's calmness, whether it's anxiety, whether it's sadness, whatever the feeling is, determine how big it is or small it is, and does it have any edges? Do you think that it's got sharp edges? Is it soft? How do you feel? How big is your emotion? How big is that feeling? And does it have sharp edges or soft edges? Today, it may be different from tomorrow or the day before. So you may feel more relaxed today or less relaxed today or more anxious today. Try and feel it. And now I'm going to ask you an interesting question. Does this feeling have a color? So if so, is the color changing or is it staying the same? So if you gauge what is it that you're feeling, where is it sitting in your body? How big or small is it? Does it have sharp edges? Does it have a color? And then, is the feeling heavy or is it light? Is the feeling that you're feeling, is it heavy or is it light? Then I want you to imagine, is the feeling moving or is it sitting still? Is it in your chest cavity and it's feeling slightly heavy or moderately heavy? Is it gray? Is the feeling moving? Is it sitting still? And then I want you to imagine, is that feeling hard or is it soft? Is it a hard feeling? Is it a soft feeling? Is it a semi sort of soft feeling? Is it rough or is the feeling smooth? And if you could touch this feeling with your hand, what would the texture be like? So if you could touch your feeling with your hand, what would the texture feel like? Is it smooth? Is it rough? I want you to imagine this and just think about it. So now, if you were to give a name to this feeling or emotion, what would you call it? Can you identify it? Can you give it a label? So what would you call your feeling that's sitting in your body at the moment? What would you call it? Can you identify it? And can you give it a label? Okay, so if a name for this feeling doesn't come to mind, okay, that's okay. So even if there were some of the questions that I asked you now that you couldn't answer, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Even if you can just feel one thing at this stage, it's fine. Because remember, we're going to practice it. You don't have to be perfect first time around. And there isn't anything like perfect in any way. So be kind to yourself and continue to observe the feeling in the body with curiosity, but without judgment. So until the nature of this emotion becomes clearer. Okay, so continue to get to know this emotion for another 5 minutes or so. So when you feel that you have reached a level of comfort with an understanding of this feeling, gently open your eyes and bring your attention back to the room that you are in. Okay, so I'm going to give you another few seconds, just another few minutes to sit with it. Sit with your eyes closed and just be there with yourself and think about be aware of your breathing in and your breathing out. Every little breath is absolutely valuable. It's incredibly valuable. So as you're breathing in and out, be aware of that emotion that you are feeling right now, and breathing in and out. as you are feeling it. Okay, so if you're not ready to open your eyes, just sit there, just breathe, enjoy the moment. Don't rush, enjoy the moment. Sit with your eyes closed, focus on your body and your breathing. I see someone shared a thought here, which I think is very, very, what is the word? I think it's very telling and very, a good example. So someone said here, in my stomach, huge, heavy disappointment in gray. There we go. So that is what I want you to see. And now I don't want you to be disappointed with that feeling. I don't want you to want it to go away. I want you to acknowledge it and know that it's there. I want you to just know that's the feeling that you have at the moment. It is there and it is okay. You don't have to chase it away. Don't try and get rid of it. Don't feel like it shouldn't have been there. This is you. This is you. And this is what you are experiencing and having right now. So someone else shared a thought. The label, contentment, there's no color or physical substance like being spiky or something like that. It feels as a tender, smooth type of feeling. Brilliant. That is what it is right now. Don't try and change it. Don't think it should have been bright pink or green or whatever. What it is what it is right now. And know that these things, they will change, they will come and they will go, they will change according to the stimulation and the interactions that you have on a daily basis with people. So that feeling in the pit of your stomach, that it's gray at 3 o'clock this afternoon, it may be red and spiky. This evening, it may be mellow green and relaxed. So the purpose of this exercise is just to try and make you see whether you can just experience it, just feel it, just recognize it. That is all. You do not chase anything away. Don't try and have things perfect by trying to control your situation or your response to the situation. What you can do is acknowledge your situation, acknowledge your feeling about it, but what you can do is regulate how you react to it. And this is where meditation will help you a lot, is if you can calm down and from there on decide what's going to be my next step. Have any of you ever experienced that if you're in a flat spin, if something has happened to upset you, that you cannot think or solve a problem? How many of you have experienced this? So I would love to hear from you. If you feel ready, you can open your eyes slowly whenever you are ready. Don't rush anything. This is the way that I want you now, from now on during the day when you drink a coffee. Please try and do a decaf here and there. When you drink your tea, when you drink your glass of water, I want you to sit outside in the garden of your office or at your office, it doesn't matter, for 15 minutes, just you, your cup of tea or your cup of coffee or your glass of water or whatever, to sit there for 15 minutes without a cell phone and just feeling what you are feeling at that moment. If you practice it, you're actually going to see that it's quite difficult. People tell me that they can't sit still for 2 minutes. That is what you need to start practicing, because this is how it's become. Remember 20, 30 years ago, there wasn't phones and stuff. We were actually used to just sitting for a few minutes. We were used to it. We don't do that anymore at all, which means that your brain does not stop for 5 seconds. Is there anyone else who wants to share their feeling that they went through right now? Anyone who wants to say that the exercise didn't make sense to them? I can be honest with you, the first time when I read this, I didn't get it at all, and I'm a psychologist. It took me a while to actually get into it, and then I realized it's all about understanding, identifying, seeing and not trying to get rid of things, not trying to change, to chase it away, not trying to be perfect, not trying to control anything, because this is the thing that you need to do. Don't try and control traffic. Don't try and control difficult clients. Don't try and control the pressures that's happening to you. All that you can do is to control your feelings and emotions, your thinking about it, and then reacting towards it. Okay, there's another comment here. So it is so difficult to be a human being. All of these feelings and emotions, expectations, situations to deal with. I always jokingly tell my kids that it seems easier to be an animal. What you see is what you get. Sometimes I wish humans can be like that, just to show you who they truly are from the get-go. So I love that point, because it almost feels to me like now that you are here on this planet, you're in a physical form. And it's almost like that's what I always just wonder about, if we were placed here to feel and experience every single thing. I mean, someone can't even pinch you without feeling it. Everything is feeling. When you put clothes on, you feel the clothes. When something happens, you feel it. When you eat something, you taste it. When you smell something, you smell it. So it's so physical. So every single thing, the emotions, physical feel, everything is you are experiencing it. So you do need to get a way of trying to feel it in the right way. So, well, not feeling in the right way. That's not what I'm trying to say. Is acknowledging it and then deciding from there on how to react to it. So that's a very important point. So it is sometimes difficult to put a name to what I'm feeling. I feel it more than I can put a word to it. So this is a good way of practicing it. And don't worry if you can't put a name to it. Try and put a color to it, a size to it, anything else. But practice putting a name to it, even if you call it what it is. So even if you don't call it a general name like flowers or whatever, even if you try and understand it by writing it down, like anxiousness, and my anxiousness on a scale from 1 to 10 is this right now. Even that way you can try and identify. So someone else here said mine was a feeling of exhaustion and frustration sitting in my chest with colors going from yellow to red. I also strangely felt a heat as well. It feels very heavy. So that is a very, very good description. And maybe later today, that may feel not as intense anymore. Maybe it will feel less. Maybe it will feel worse. It doesn't matter. Just try and experience it, and then try to not judge it. Don't try and think you have to get rid of it and make it flatline. That's not the point. We want to acknowledge it and feel it and experience it. What you can do is maybe even try and communicate it with someone. But I do want to give you an exercise. This is what you feel like today. Try later today or tomorrow. Go through this exercise again and see how it changes. So someone else said it's a lovely exercise of getting in touch with yourself and very calming when you have lots on your plate. So practice it. Please practice it. The more you practice meditation and just sitting with yourself. So if you just sit with yourself and try and experience what it is that you are going through, you will have clarity on what it is that you're going through. So someone else said, okay, sorry, no, there's not another comment. So I can give you an example. Last week, the bank froze all my cards because apparently without warning me, I didn't do a FICA update or something like that. So it caused absolute havoc. And I couldn't get hold of someone to help me to sort it out. So now I was angry. And as I was trying to sort it out, I couldn't get to a solution with the people that I was dealing with. I decided then to stop it right there. And I phoned again 3 hours later. We solved it literally in 20 minutes. So that is the way that I want to try and help you today is, and I still also struggle with it. I'm not perfect. No one is perfect. Don't think you have to be perfect. You just want to get better. There's no such thing as perfect, because where is it? Because where does feelings stop and start? Where does it end? There's no parameter of saying this is perfect, this type of person is perfect. even if you think of famous people that we think is emotional intelligence, let's take Princess Diana. Do you honestly think she didn't have breakdowns when she was all alone on her own sometimes? So never ever think you need to be perfect or try to control what it is that you are going through. The things are going to come and go. Accept them as they come and go. Today you had to deal with traffic because that was just on your plate for today. The universe gave it to you. Take it as it comes. But I can honestly tell you, if there's any hint I can give you, is to practice meditation as much as you possibly can. But find a thing that works for you. It could also be running or exercising. It can be meditating. It can be yoga. It can just be stretches. It can just be taking 15 minutes or half an hour a day by just sitting by yourself without your phone, sitting, no thinking, talking, no thinking and talking. Try and see if you can do that. The Art of Living, I don't know if some of you are aware of the Art of Living courses. They've got silence courses where they actually teach you to meditate, and they also try and help you to just do nothing. It's actually quite an exercise. You think it's easy. So before you log off, I just want to go through the 7 misconceptions. I've got 2 minutes left. The 7 misconceptions. There's also another comment in the comment box that I'm going to address just now. But before you log off, I just want to go through the 7 misconceptions about EQ. So high EQ is this, high IQ is the same as high EQ. It's not. So EQ and IQ is similar, is dissimilar. IQ is cognitive intelligence. EQ is intelligence, but with emotion. Believe it or not, it's equally important. I've seen some people with a high IQ that really do very stupid things or silly things or things that doesn't work in their favor because the EQ isn't high. So you want to get a balance. So the second misconception, there are gender and generational biases in EQ. What this means is people will say, yeah, but women are more emotional than men or whatever. Or, there's biases. It's very, very untrue. So being emotional is not meaning that you have a high EQ. It means understanding yourself and others. So an emotional person could actually be very much lacking in EQ. A very emotionally expressive person can, you understand what I'm saying? So then being charismatic means you have a high EQ. That doesn't mean that at all. If I smear some butter around your sugar around your mouth, or what do they say? I butter you up or something. That doesn't mean I've got a high EQ. It may mean that I'm charismatically trying to manipulate you, or I'm sweet talking you. It could be confused for it, yes. So be careful that someone doesn't butter you up. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, then point number 4, improving EQ is all about getting in touch with your feelings. It's not really. It is about understanding yourself, others, understanding relationships, and it's a social awareness. So it's getting in touch. It's not only getting in touch with your feelings, because getting in touch with your feelings may mean that it's just about you and your emotions. It's about understanding your emotions, actually. It's not getting in touch with them. Getting in touch with them just means I'm sitting and I'm crying and I'm expressing it. That does not mean I actually understand myself and others. So please, that's a very important point. Number 4 is very important. And then emotional people have a high EQ. So this one links to the previous one. Emotional people does not necessarily mean that they understand their own emotions. So just because you're emotional and just because you're expressing it, because that's why you're feeling it, doesn't mean that you're understanding it or that you're understanding the impact that your actions has on someone else. So please be very much aware of this. Then point number 6, only really unhealthy, toxic people need to develop their EQ. No, everyone has. A very normal person could polish the edges a little bit. And if I mean by normal, I'm meaning you're a normal, healthy, considerate, empathic person. You may need to polish a few edges somewhere. And then there's a low return on investment on EQ training. So return on investment in your company, it's actually not true, because if someone interacts with your clients, whether it doesn't have to be a sales role, we're talking just about interacting with clients, whether they're in accounts, whether they are wherever. If they don't act in a decent, emotionally aware way that you can lose clients. So just be aware of that one. So these 7 things, very, very important. This will put you on the right track already if you try and understand EQ. Then I just want to address the last comment here. So thank you, Celia, for a fantastic series of emotional intelligence. I loved it. I'm really glad to hear this. I look forward to the stress management series. Yes, the stress management starts next week, every Wednesday for 3 weeks in a row. Although I have a sense that my personal EQ is probably at a fairly decent level, I would be interested in actually to do the EQ questionnaire that's available to the public to see the graph or visual representation. That will be very good to know, because you may think you're better at something where you're not as great, or you could be underestimating yourself where you are better than you think you are. So it would be good to do something like that. You can always let us know if you want to do something like that. There is like a whole coaching thing behind it. It would be, and this is EQ, is to see what you are good at and what you are not good at. So I'm so glad that it looks like people have enjoyed this process. I really just want to help educate and train, because it took me a while to understand EQ. It's not an easy thing to understand, because what is it? Because what is an emotion? What's a feeling? Where does it start? Where does it end? So we just have to tune ourselves in a little bit more. This presentation will be available. You can ask myself or the HR Talk. There is my contact details. Where is it? Is it on here? So this is our contact details, or you can request it from the HR Talk, and we can look at it for you. But please try and log in the next few weeks. Remember, there's also going to be study methods for high school students and for university students after the stress management. So anyone who's got children, they will benefit from the stress. They will also benefit from the study method. So you can make contact with us, but keep an eye out for our invitations for this. Okay, everyone, it was very nice to talk to all of you. Our time is seriously up, and we will be chatting shortly. So please make contact with us if there's anything that you want to know. Let me just see if there's more Q&A questions. Okay, there's more people that saying thank you. It was a real big pleasure. So I hope to see all of you in the future, and please get this presentation from us so that you can do the exercise repeatedly. Let people in your family practice it with you. So enjoy it and enjoy your own discovery with your EQ. So, okay, thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day and week. See you very soon.